Open the fire, play the bedroom, let them know. No finish you, no finish you. Man no fit tire, every day I'm on the road. No limit you, no limit you. This now so good. Would you turn down for who? Would you robo? Many things we can do. Tori, I'm into you.
Thin, isn't it? In fact, it was only just deeper than this card, and the bit that you mount inside the box is narrower than this card, which is, hang on, 85mm, just over 3¼ inches. And don't worry, it's not a credit card. If you want to steal my eHIC information, that's fine, although it expired some time ago. This is the Wavtech ThinPro 12. Thin by name, thin by nature. It's a relatively new sub on the scene. I've bought this with my own money. I haven't been sent this for demo, so I'm going to tell you what I think of it. And take what I think of it with a pinch of salt, because I've not heard every single subwoofer out there. I'm probably one of the least qualified people to say if this is a good sub compared to all the JLs, all the Focals, all the Morel subs, all the Hertz subs. But I've heard a few of them. I've got 2 Hertz subs in my car, so I just wanted to see what this sounded like compared to those. And because of the structure and the form of it, I think this will be a very versatile sub when it comes to installation. I'll go on to a bit more about that in a minute, but what have we got here? It's a 12-inch subwoofer, actually measured across the cone, and it's about 11 inches across the cone. The whole frame is just over 12 inches, but it's exceptionally shallow. Like I said, less than 85mm. I'll put the actual specs up on the screen briefly, or just have a look at the website for Wavtech or Wavtech. I don't quite know how you're supposed to pronounce it. But some of the features of this then, why was I interested in this? It's got a hell of a lot of excursion. So for a thin, shallow sub, typically they struggle compared to the kind of deep format subs that are going to be so high with excursion. And the more excursion and cone area, the more air movement and the better bass. But for a shallow sub, this has got a hell of a lot of excursion because of the clever way it's constructed. I mean, this is the spider. This is normally on the outside of the voice coil, but they've swapped it around so that they can shrink the whole thing down, basically. It's got a massive heavy motor structure, huge voice coil, to kind of keep that piston moving nice and in a linear fashion. And it handles a decent chunk of power. They say 750 watts RMS, 2,250 watts peak. I'm going to be running this from the Audison SR1500 amp that's in my car, and at 2 ohms, that's going to be giving it 800 watts. It's going to be compared against the 2 Hertz subs that are in my car. So I've got the MPS 250s. They're both 2 ohms, bridged down to, or paralleled down to 1 ohm. And so they're pulling about 1,000 watts from the amp. And there's 2 10-inch cone surface areas. So in theory, this is less surface area than those, but it's got a lot of extrusion. So we'll see how it compares. Interestingly, I did say to the owner of Wavtech what I was putting it up against, and he kind of chuckled to himself and said, it'll be no problem. What else can I tell you about it? It's got a nice construction to it. It looks expensive. So yeah, there's going to be no problems when you get this out for a customer and show them what they're getting for their money. But yeah, let's get it in a box and see what it sounds like in the car. Need a box. Here's a little something we knocked up earlier. Now with the sub in it as well. There we go. So, I know this looks quite big, but actually the airspace is quite shallow. It needed the feet, obviously, so it stands off the ground, and so the sub, when it's moving, isn't going to slam itself into the floor of the boot. It's 17 litres of airspace, this. So 17 litres for a 12-inch is ridiculously small, and it means that in my BMW, for instance, where I've got the fiberglass enclosures, the one on the driver's side especially, the one on the passenger side is a tiny bit smaller, but the one on the driver's side was actually 17.8 litres of airspace. So in theory, I'd be able to remake that with a larger baffle, cut out in the baffle, and have this 12-inch then in that side pocket of the car. With other subs, it's just very difficult to do that. The Hertz MPS 300 that we used in a Land Rover Defender a while ago, I think that was 22 litres. And most deep format subs are going to be wanting at least 28 litres upwards. So 17 litres for this is pretty exceptional. We still need to see how it performs. Shaking the camera. It's ready to go in the car now. I'm quite excited to hear it. There's a 10-inch of this coming out soon, the ThinPro 10, and that's going to work from as little as 9 litres. I think the optimum was about 10 litres of airspace. So again, that's very small for the kind of power and type of sub that is. I think again, the Hertz is optimized for about 14 litres of airspace. So if my kind of belief of it is, if you're using a thin sub, it's because there's a size issue or a space issue somewhere in the car. So then if you're using a thin sub that still needs quite a lot of airspace, it kind of takes away the point of using the thin sub. You could, in some instances, use just a deep format sub. This one, we've just done it in this box for now. So I can just chuck it in the car and test it. We can put it into customers' cars and test it if they want to. There's a particular customer, I've built this exactly the right size for him. David, if you're watching, this is for you. So if he wants this in his car, it will fit straight in his car because I know what sub is already in his car, and this will fit. But we're going to chuck it in our car, have a listen to it, see what it sounds like, and yeah, I'll come back to you and update you with the Wavtech ThinPro 12.
Give me your hand and shoulder to see shoulder get up. Blessings for your head up. Give me your hand and shoulder. But I no go get us. Better go locate us. Give me your hand and shoulder to see shoulder get up. Blessings for your head up. Give me your hand and shoulder. But I no go get us. Better go locate us. And I'm like Vuvuzela. No one can do you better. You body fall from me. When I balaba, give me your hand and shoulder. But I no go get us. Better go locate us. Yola balaba, give me your hand and shoulder. To see shoulder get up. Blessings for your head up. Yola balaba, give me your hand and shoulder. But I no go get us.
Well, I think that sounds pretty good for a single 12-inch, but the way I really like to experience speakers for the first time is with a bit of a road trip. So let's go see what some other people think of it. Right, so I didn't get quite as much footage as I wanted to down in Brighton. On the way down, I was thinking I should do some little kind of video interviews with people, but one of those things, never got around to it. Why did I go down to Brighton on a freezing cold Sunday morning? Well, partly because, like I say, I wanted to listen to this for a longer time, but mainly because it's good to check your reference of what a really great system is, and hear as many cars as you can, even as an installer. I want to hear what other people have installed. I want to hear what DIYers have installed, because you can kind of get set in your ways a little bit of how you tune things, and it's nice just to check that reference, check you're doing well. I also wanted people to hear this car to see if it sounds as good as I think it did. And yeah, I thought it'd be fun to take this down and see what other people thought of it as well. So what was the whole Brighton thing? Well, there's a guy called Peter, PS Sound. If you're into audio, you've probably already heard of him. If you haven't, check out his Instagram and YouTube. He does some crazy builds. He builds lots of show cars, that award-winning show cars. He's got literally a whole shelf full of awards from audio competitions, but also just some great kind of daily sounding systems. I went down to his a couple of years ago with my brother, and we did a bit of fabrication training, and he was just really super helpful with setting everything up. But he runs these audio meets a couple of times a year, I think, down in Brighton. That's near where he's based. And although I wouldn't have said that I'm normally the kind of person that likes to hang around in a car park listening to other people's stereos on a Sunday morning, like I say, it was definitely valuable. And all I can advise is, if you're thinking of having a system, if you're going to spend £3,000, £4,000, £5,000, £6,000 or more on a system, go and listen to as many as you can. Go and listen to the shops that you're thinking of using. Go and listen to people's cars at shows or meetups like this, to get that reference of where you want your system to be, where the staging should be on the dash, how the bass should transfer through the car. Do you want speakers up in the pillars or in OEM locations? You can listen to all kinds of cars that have got those different things at a meetup like this, and come away with a much better opinion of what a really great system is. So that was the main reason I went down there, just to kind of have a listen to as many cars as possible. And it was really enjoyable, and everyone was there. It was super friendly, so can not recommend it highly enough. In terms of the Wavtech, it was also interesting just to get a few more sets of ears on it, some experienced ears in terms of other installers and other people in the audio competition scene, that have heard a lot of subwoofers and know what kind of a great subwoofer attribute is. And everyone was very impressed with it. I think the thing that really shone through, and the comments that I had about it, was the accuracy and like the speed and the definition of the bass. So the Hertz are great speakers for the price point, and they've got great power handling and great power output, and provide an awful lot of bass. Where I think they fall down very slightly, they're slightly slower in the response, and it leads to a bit of a kind of a muddled bass note, especially when like the bass stops, or it's kind of like a quick da-da-da-da-da bass kind of thing. You can hear a little bit of like almost an echo after it. That might be because I've got two subwoofers on different sides of the boot, tuned as if they're in one box, because they're just running off one amplifier and one DSP channel. I need to experiment with a different amplifier, tuning them separately, time aligning them separately, see if that makes a difference. But as soon as you swapped over to the Wavtech, although the low bass and the kind of chest thump bass was similar, especially after I tuned each of them individually, the Wavtech definitely sounded more accurate, and yeah, it was just a more refined bass note. So I'm going to take this back out of the car now. I've had it in the car for a week listening to it. I'm going to take it back out, go back to the Hertz, just refresh my kind of what they sounded like again. But for me, yeah, it's a bit more of an SQ sub. These are great subs for really kind of slamming loud and taking loads of power. But if you want that kind of super clean, accurate bass, this for me had the edge. And I'm excited to build a new enclosure for this to go on the side, because like I said before, the benefit of this sub is that it works in a much smaller airspace than a typical 12-inch. I happen to have 17.8 litres of airspace in the box behind here. So once I've remade this box, because that's not going to fit into that hole, unfortunately, we'll remake this box and get the Wavtech in this side application. One of the other things to note was in its down-firing location, lots of nice low rumble bass, but the kind of mid bass, or that punch, was slightly kind of gone. I don't know if it could be tuned back in. I only did a fairly quick tune on it, but when you flip the box upside down and had the sub playing up again, it sounded great. So hopefully in this side location, with the bass wave being not going directly into the floor, it's going to sound really, really nice. The other quick thing, Wavtech, if you're listening, which you probably are because you're only a small company, and I know you care about what various people think about it, but for me at this price point, maybe chuck a grill in the box. I'm going to buy the grill for this. I know it's only just come out in the UK, or it's only just available in the UK, Don't know how much it's going to be, but it's going to need a grill if it's on the side or facing up or anything. So yeah, for that price point, I think just chuck a grill in. Otherwise, yeah, very impressed. Everyone that heard it was impressed, and great little sub. It's going to definitely be one that features in other builds. Thanks for listening to me rumble on about subwoofers. Little joke there. If you're interested in having a system built, drop us a line, have a look at the website. If you're interested in listening to various cars, look at PS Sound's social channels. I think the next one will probably be towards the end of summer, because he's a busy guy. He's all the way around the world doing different audio shows. Thanks for the views on the previous videos. Nice to see the channel's gaining a bit of traction. We're only a small channel. I'm not really doing it to be a YouTuber. I'm just doing it so that you can see the kind of audio systems we install. But hit subscribe, check out the Instagram, and we'll hopefully see you in the next video. We've got a Porsche 964 that's in progress. I should probably start taking a video on that. And then a Jaguar F-Type coming in next week, I think. So that's having a fairly reasonably sized system as well. Couple of interesting ones coming up, and we will see you in those videos.